Good morning, St. John's family. Father Curt here, and welcome to my morning walk. This is part of my daily routine, my morning routine, which gives me space to be outside when the weather's nice, to listen to audiobooks or podcasts from theologians, to pray, not just pray about what's going on with me and my family, but, well, that includes the St. John's family. Having time to pray for all of you, individually and collectively, knowing the various concerns on your hearts. And one of the things which weighs heavily this morning, and this is Saturday, June the 25th, I've talked with some of you. I've noticed the social media post, and there's a lot of anger, a lot of hurt from the Supreme Court's decision yesterday with Roe versus Wade. And I want to acknowledge that. Pam and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, and what we both want you to know is that you can come to us. We hope to, our goal is to create a safe space for you on this issue and anything else that you may be going through. Now, as it pertains to this issue and how we approach corporate worship tomorrow, I kind of want to use this time to give a preface to the sermon, because quite frankly, I don't know how many young ears might be there tomorrow morning, and where you may or may not be in your discussions with your families. And I also want to be as clear and transparent as I possibly can as your priest, your rector. So here we go. One of the things I value about the Episcopal Church, one of the gifts, is that we, as baptized followers of Jesus in the Episcopal Church, we endeavor to look at life in as genuine and authentic ways as possible. We don't try to cover things over. When Pam and I get up to preach, we don't want to give you a song and dance. We think you're much more intelligent than that, and you deserve the best efforts of your clergy. Now, the Episcopal Church's position when it comes to women's reproductive health, to abortion, over the decades, it acknowledges the nuance. It acknowledges the seriousness of what's being undertaken, and it acknowledges the, I'm going to use the word pain of the circumstances that women have to endure, which is not something that I can understand. And so this is one of those areas in which I have to do a lot more listening than talking. And ironically, right now I'm talking. But here are a few of the voices that I've listened to over the years. Yesterday, for example, a Twitter post from Bishop Bonnie Perry in our neighboring diocese to the south, the Diocese of Michigan. Bishop Perry wrote, after the decision was announced, that abortion should be safe, accessible, and rare. That, to me, encompasses the Episcopal Church stance. Now, in terms of the theological work that I'll say I've done on this over the years, I've been heavily influenced by two women scholars, Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg. I think that's how her last name is pronounced, either Ruttenberg or Rutenberg, a rabbi, Jewish tradition. And I'm going to include a link to her work when I send out this video by way of email. And she gives a theological explanation on what the Torah, the Jewish law, has to say about abortion and how it can be applied in the 21st century. And then also fellow Episcopal priest and acquaintance, the Reverend Dr. Wilda Gafney. And I've read some books of hers talking about women's agency, especially Hagar, the slave woman of Sarah and Abraham. And so I'll reference that too within the email. So there's some theological work that I've done with that. But mostly, and I'm going to try to be as generic as possible here because of health privacy laws. I mean, you know that once a week, on average, I serve as a chaplain at Covenant Healthcare. And I served years ago, summer of 1999, as a chaplain intern at the University of Alabama, Birmingham Medical Center, down south in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. And what I've experienced over the years as it relates to this issue, I've seen the pain of young women and their families, and especially women of color, to be quite honest. I've been in hospital rooms ministering to families whose relative, a young woman, and more times than not, she's a woman of color, a woman who did not have access to quality health care, and complications from those procedures, meaning abortions, complications led to their deaths. And that is absolutely devastating for families and chaplains, not just me, but chaplains cannot help but be affected emotionally, spiritually, and even theologically. So I know this is a complicated issue. I know that not everybody watching this will agree with my approach to this, and that's okay. We need to learn to disagree well, which is not something that we're doing now as a nation. But I do think it's something that we at St. John's do well, and we should continue to do. And I hope to flesh that out a little bit more in a sermon tomorrow, Sunday, not January. I wouldn't be walking out here if it were January. June 26th. So all of this is to say that I think the decision made yesterday was wrong. It's going to cause much more harm than good. And our focus as a congregation, my responsibility to you as your priest, regardless of how you feel about this or any other contentious issue, my responsibility, Pam's responsibility, is to care for you, to show you how much God loves you and how God's love expressed fully in Jesus Christ can make a difference. It can bring healing, and it can bring peace in the midst of great pain. And so as we grieve or celebrate, depending on who you are, but more so for those who grieve, I would say at this moment, let's keep focused. Let's stay together as a church family and take our strength from the God we know in Jesus Christ. See you in church.